breaking down all the biggest games in our area. This is Sports Talk with Kendrick and Dusty on Wave Now. Delivered by Bearno's Pizza. Yeah, it's that good.
Welcome back to Kendrick and Dusty Talk Sports. I'm Wave Sports Director Kendrick Haskins. Dusty has a much-deserved night off, so I'm joined my good buddy C.L. Brown, sports columnist at the Courier Journal, just making his way back to Kentucky. Welcome back home.
Good to be back.
It's been a little while, couple of months since you came back. I mean, what's it been like?
Well, really, I was hired. I started back in April, so immediately it was, basically the horse deaths at Churchill, and we've been running ever since. It's never a loss of things to talk about.
Right, because I've been saying when Trenton Flowers left U of L, Dusty's new to the area, so I was like, nothing ever surprises me around here anymore, especially when it comes to U of L athletics.
It's always something.
There's always something. But we are in football season. We got the first weeks out of the way for all of our Powers, Cards, Cats, and Hoosiers. First of all, before we even get into breaking down, which one of the three impressed you the most in week one?
Oh, wow. That's a good question. I would probably say U of L because of the way the second half went, the adjustments that were made, the whole tone flipped. A lot of times, even though technically it was a neutral site game, that was a road game.
Right.
And a lot of times, especially in a season opener on the road, you can kind of lose yourself if you don't get off to a good start. And they obviously didn't. And so the adjustments that Jeff Braun made at halftime were, I'm not surprised he did it, but everything seemed on point.
Right.
And so I think they were probably impressed the most.
Well, since we're here, we'll go ahead and stick with U of L for now. Were you surprised that he was so blunt that Jack Plummer was nervous coming into the game? Because sometimes coaches kind of hide that point, but Jeff didn't make no bones about it.
Well, I think we could all see it,
right?
With some of the throws that he made, throwing off the back foot, some throws that were low or behind, and that kind of thing to open guys, something had to be the reason for that. So but Jeff kind of strikes me as pretty much he's not going to candy coat stuff.
No.
He's going to shoot you straight. So I think how Plummer moves ahead from here on out, maybe he got all that out of the way in that first half, and we'll see more of what he looked like in the second half.
I was a little surprised for him being nervous just because he's played so much football at this point. He's a vet. It's not like he's a freshman making his first start. And does that give you pauses like, is it
no?
Because he could have just be first game jitters.
Yeah, I think with anything, with you going on anchoring the news, maybe sometimes you still get some butterflies and that kind of thing. I think that's normal. This is a new team for him, new fan base. Maybe he was pressing a little bit to try and impress people that aren't familiar with them. And I do think though, and one of my columns this week was about it. I think their strength is going to be establishing the run.
Yes.
Not putting Plummer in situations where he has to throw to win games and kind of complement. It's a little bit different than what Braum's offenses normally do, but I think that's the winning formula for them.
I had that conversation as we look at Gerard Jordan breaking on that last play. They have the running backs to be able to do it, and I kind of feel like this first year you may not see the typical Jeff Braun offense that we've seen in the past at Western Kentucky and Purdue. I think it is going to be more ground heavy because they can run the ball, and it's game one, of course, but a little bit shaky at quarterback. This will never get old to me. And you can tell he didn't want to put that thing on.
And that he kept it on to speak is even funnier.
Because Jeff is a hilarious person. He's funny because, for one, he'll do stuff like that. But then he's so cool and calm in his press conferences whenever you deal with him.
Yeah.
But he ripped that team at halftime. And when those lights come on and it's time to play ball, Jeff is as competitive as it comes, and he's not the
flips the switch.
He's not the wholesome person that everybody thinks he is.
Between the lines, but that's exactly what they needed. And you need a coach who's going to just cut straight to the chase and get it done. So And again, the adjustments, though, sometimes coaches are just stubborn and they're like,
Right.
well, we're going to keep doing this until, we can establish our will. And Brom wasn't like that. There are many ways to win. And he was like, this is the better way to win.
Right. I think even like to the layman, I think what people came away most impressed by were the adjustments, because the second quarter, that game, it could have the way that momentum shifted, that could have gotten real ugly in the second half. I think when they came out, the first major adjustment was that first drive. They ran the ball more. They got down there, got that field goal. I think that settled them down, and I think they took off from there.
And they didn't abandon the run. That was critical to me. If they would have come out in third quarter, that first drive, just trying to keep passing, who knows if they score and, where the momentum goes. But yeah, that was big for them to, even though I still think now they got third down issues and red zone issues to work out. But still, being able to move the ball, even getting the field goal, was big at that time.
And I think that's part of that, too, is the maturity of Jeff as a coach. Because back in the day, back at Western, it's very possible he would have kept trying to throw the ball. Yeah. But he is matured as a coach, and they move on. U of L starts out 1-0. They have their home opener Thursday night against my alma mater, who's the sacrificial lamb. Not only are they the sacrificial lamb, they're coming in on a blackout. What kind of crowd you expecting to see out there? Because, you've been around here since he's been hired, and like the electricity around the program is as high as it's been.
Yeah. I think especially given what else happened in the ACC this weekend with Duke beating Clemson. Yeah. And even though Florida State looked good and they might be the team to beat in the league, they're not on the schedule. So there's a lot of optimism and just hope and feel goodness, if you will, about the program. And I think the crowd is going to respond as such. I think it should be an electric atmosphere on a Thursday night. I know people will be getting off of work to go. It'll be a little bit different than a typical Saturday kind of game. But I think it'll still be charged. How many years have they been waiting for Brom and wanting Brom home?
About 7. Well, the thing too with Duke now, all of a sudden U of L schedule that looked really easy got a little bit more difficult after that Duke game against Clemson.
The thing about Duke, I thought that they would be good this year, but they have a tough schedule. So I thought that we might not even be able to really recognize them as a good team because they were going to take hits. But I also had that being a loss to Clemson right off the bat. So, what's funny, though? I can already see in the future with Clemson, Dabo in the offseason is going to use the transfer portal.
Will he?
And he's going to get
will he finally do it?
He's going to get some players in. When you lose to Duke like that, you're going to make some changes.
All right, because that's the other advantage of having you in here, because you're so knowledgeable about the ACC. And so you've been around Dabo. He's been hard-headed about the NIL. He's been so stubborn about the NIL and the transfer portal. Yeah. Will he see the light?
Well, he saw Florida State, I'm sure, and the guys who came from the transfer portal that helped them against LSU. And against Duke, yes, they had a lot of yards and they just didn't convert, had the fumbles inside the 10. But I also didn't just see them having better athletes, especially in the skill positions, like guys who were just, wide open and running past Duke guys. They were running with Duke guys. There wasn't a whole lot of separation that I saw. And I think all of that plays into this is a wide open league this year. And a lot of teams can have hope.
I think my co-host on my other podcast is really high on Florida State. And speaking of that one, Lloyd picked Duke to beat Clemson.
He did?
Yes. Okay. And I haven't heard the end of it since. Anyway, moving on from the ACC to the SEC in Kentucky. Kentucky, when their first games of the season, they may as well be in the MAC. Because they always play MAC opponents. The MAC is a strong conference, but they play them a lot. They played Ball State to open the season. This was just a weird game. It was just weird all around, and it was hot out there on Saturday.
Yes, it was hot. I think Kentucky had to knock some cobwebs out, and even though Liam Cohen, he was a year was the OC for a year, left a year, and is back, it's still different. You know what I mean? They still have to kind of get their traction, so to speak, with the offense. And I think we saw that. And I also think that's why Stoops kind of let them out there longer than we would have said. Yeah, we would have seen in a normal game. But I do believe they're going to get it together. Devin Leary, you know, when he's been healthy, what I saw him do at NC State, I do believe he's going to establish himself as one of the better quarterbacks in the SEC. And we didn't necessarily see him display that in this first game, but I do believe that it's coming. And it speaks to being a veteran guy, just like Jack Plummer at U of L. Like, he's going to work that out. Like, I think he knows enough about this college game to where they're going to smooth those things out.
Yeah, because you've seen him more than just about anybody in this area. What does he bring to the table? What are fair expectations for what fans can expect from him in his 1 year at Kentucky?
Well, I was saying preseason, like, he's not Will Levis.
Right.
He's different kind,
Smaller.
but he's but his arm talent is up there. And, you know, he's accurate. Man, that dude puts it where it needs to be 9 out of 10 times. And his leadership style is like he's see, I was going to say Joe Montana, but I don't want people to take that the wrong way.
Right.
Like, it's like he's just like kind of cool and calm. He's not a rah-rah guy.
Okay.
You know what I mean? But
like Levis was.
Yes, you can see him in the way he handles situations. He doesn't panic and everything. He's not moved. And you can, as a teammate, you would be confident in seeing him be like, "Oh, we're gonna be okay. We're down right now, whatever. We're gonna get this drive
kind of
together."
calming force in the huddle.
Yeah. So, I'm really big on what he can do, and I always go back to when healthy, because the last 2 seasons he's had injuries and you know has ended his seasons. So hopefully he can play all the way through.
He's got some serious weapons in Barryon Brown and Dane Key. I mean, if he can stay upright, if the offensive line can be, really true, if the offensive line can be average compared to what they were last year, I think they can be super successful with all the weapons he has on the outside.
Well, they can't be worse than last year. Dare I say that?
No, they
on the offensive line.
But have you ever seen a team where they scored in all 3 phases of the game and the coach is like, it's just frustrating. It's a frustrating game. But you can understand why he said it. But they scored in all 3 phases of the game.
Yeah, but when the competition level steps up, that's you know, like you got to eliminate some of the mistakes that they made and have things running more smooth. But you know, I mean, I knocked their schedule, but this is why they play that schedule, because they want to be. When the SEC games start, you got to be running full speed.
Right.
So, yeah, I mean, what is Eastern Kentucky on Saturday?
Eastern Kentucky is Saturday, then they have Akron, and then chaos begins. I mean, this team, they play Tennessee, they play Alabama, they play Georgia. Missouri's no punk. South Carolina's on the upcoming.
Yeah, I think they're going to be good.
Even though I picked North Carolina to win that game.
Well, you know, I mean, when you say Carolina, most people think North Carolina, I think.
Yeah, but they did that whole story about North Carolina's Carolina.
But Shane Beamer, I think, is one of the great upcoming coaches. And I think he's going to be. I think it's going to be hard for South Carolina to keep him, to be honest.
Oh, really?
I think he's going to be very good.
And that's become a little bit of a rivalry between Kentucky and South Carolina. That's outside of Louisville and Tennessee. South Carolina is the team that I hear fans talking about the most, and it's kind of weird because South Carolina beat them last year. But that game is in Columbia, and then you look at it, Vanderbilt, which used to be a gimme, that's not a gimme anymore either. I mean, this SEC is because usually it's really top heavy.
Yeah.
This year, I don't think it's as top heavy. I think it's Georgia, then Tennessee and Alabama. Then I think everybody else is they're not overwhelming, but I think it's a lot of parity in the conference this year.
For sure. I think I still think, even though LSU that second half against Florida State got pretty much handled, I still think they're in that top tier too.
Florida State, I think, it was underrated. I don't know how they were ranked number 8 coming in, to be honest with you. I mean, they returning just about everybody from last year's team that was successful.
I think it was just wait and see, because it's been a long time since we've seen that Florida State.
Right, with
you know what I mean? Yeah. And so I think rightfully so, people are like, well, let's see what they do. And we saw it.
We saw it once they got going in that second half.
Changed the trajectory.
And real quick, to the team you covered a long time ago, don't cover them as much anymore. IU football. Yeah. I mean, they got beat. Was it 23-3 by Ohio State as expected, but the score is not really indicative of the game, because IU's defense really showed up. They had some problems on offense, which is to be expected against Ohio State. And Ohio State still really doesn't know who their quarterback is. Yeah. But, I mean, you hold Marvin Harrison to 2 or 3 catches, and the defense looked good in that game.
Yeah, this is a detour. I realize as great as Marvin Harrison Jr. is and as talented as he has no shot at winning the Heisman because he doesn't have a quarterback that's going to get him involved. I'm sitting there watching and had that epiphany. But, Indiana, and I think it was a little bit of both. Not Ohio State not playing at a high level and not being great. And also, I think defensively, Indiana did some things that, gave Ohio State some trouble. And then they were able to kind of stay in the game until, later in the second half when Ohio State went up. But that's why I think it's going to be an interesting game for no, I'm skipping ahead. Coaches won't do that. But,
but if you look at the opponents for all 3 of them, we can skip ahead.
When U of L goes up to Indianapolis to play them, I think that could be an interesting game, just because I do think Indiana is probably better than what that score indicated, as you said, against Ohio State.
Yeah, because their defensive front, I mean, usually they get pushed around by Ohio State, but that didn't happen. And I would think they're probably going to be able to get some pressure on Plummer when they play up in Indianapolis. Yeah,
I think if anything, maybe it's really just a depth issue at IU. Like, I think they have some players, but when they have to go to their reserves, I think that's where it falls off a little bit more. But the thing about U of L in the second half against Georgia Tech, even though Brown kind of tweaked how the offense ran, they still put up points. So
in a hurry.
I think IU's going to be hard pressed to match that.
Right. Of course, the story of the weekend was Coach Prime. who was put
do you believe
who has put an ungodly amount of pressure on every first-year coach in the country. But when you saw that game, though, I mean, how impressed were you? Because that was, not only was it just entertaining, that's just as impressive a performance as you'll see.
It was funny. I mean, I thought they were going to lose. I didn't necessarily think they were a 20-point underdog, but I thought they were, road game, first game. I just figured they were going to lose. And so it wasn't until I just happened to check my phone in the score ticker and saw that they were up 7-0. I was like, oh, let me check this out.
Right.
And
the fourth quarter happened.
Travis Hunter, to me, should be in the top 3 that we're talking about for Heisman right now.
Yes.
After one game, yes. But that kid is so talented. That interception he made was just so impressive.
It did not look real.
And he came off of his guy. Like, he read the play. He knew what was happening. And for somebody, he's still just a sophomore.
Right.
Like, somebody that young to have that kind of confidence and make that kind of play in that situation was huge. And I think both him and Shedeur Sanders talking about the way they were talked about coming from Jackson State, HBCU, and maybe they wouldn't be able to play the same on a Power 5 level, I thought was ridiculous.
It was ridiculous because they were top 100 recruits coming out of high school in the first place. So. Yeah. But then, like, Shedeur, though, I mean, 500 yards in your debut. That was a Peyton Manning, though.
Yeah, that's video game numbers. I mean, obviously, though, they're going to have to shore up their defense a little bit more.
Yeah.
They can't give up 42 every week. But it's just a huge statement from game one. Now, who knows how the rest of the season will play out for them? But I think if nothing else, you can't take your eyes off Deion.
No,
You
you
know
never
what I'm
can.
saying?
You never could in the first place. But now, I mean, he's going to be, because I mean, you look at it now. I mean, it's Saban and Deion as far as popularity goes among
the
college
Affleck
coaches.
commercials.
Right. That was the other wild part about it, is like they're out there lighting up the scoreboard, and every time they go to a timeout, there's Deion and Nick Saban and Affleck commercial.
Yeah. But man, so whose house can he not get in now?
Exactly.
Wise?
Exactly.
Like,
I mean, it was limited to who we couldn't get into before in the
Yeah.
first place. But now, I mean, he's going to get that thing rolled. Now, you talk about Beamer not being in South Carolina long. I mean, how long is he going to be in Colorado?
yeah. No telling. No telling.
But he's already exceeded
They
his
did
worth
give him
there.
the chance, so maybe that will count for something. But who knows?
Yeah, well, so does Jackson. Well, man, it was a fun Saturday. It's another fun Saturday coming up this weekend. And, of course, the NFL kicks off tomorrow, too. Great for U of L that they open up the same night as Kansas City Chiefs. That's on our air, by the way. Tune in to Wave and NBC for the Kansas City Chiefs and Detroit Lions. And I hope Travis Kelce is okay, because he was my first pick in my fantasy. Are you an NFL guy? You
I have to give up fantasy. No, I'm not really an NFL guy anymore. I still consider myself a Steeler fan.
I thought you was a Steelers fan.
I'm still me and Keith Farmer. I'm still
Yeah.
a Steelers fan.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't pay attention like I used to. It would consume way too much time. Like, what am I doing here?
Now.
You know what I'm saying? Like, you know, I would watch literally every game on Sundays. You know, 1 o'clock to 4 o'clock, late game. You know, yeah.
The red zone's the greatest invention known to man.
Man, yeah, I had to get it. And doing fantasy was worse, because if you really want to win, you have to pay attention.
Right,
You have to keep up with what reserve players coming in after an injured guy, and you know, it's just got to be too much.
It's a lot easier with football. I'm in a basketball fantasy, and I mean, I'm just getting my head beat in. It's like, I ain't got time to sit here. I mean, I got dudes. They making changes all the time, because that's the key. Is just basically just have people playing.
Yep.
I ain't got time for all that. But still, thanks for coming in. It's your maiden voyage on Kendrick and Dusty Talk Sports. Even though Dusty's not here, he's in Chicago enjoying himself like he should. But him and I will be back sometime next week, I guess. And then but we will see. You'll be at the game tomorrow night?
I will. All
right.
Looking forward to it.
And I'll see you there. But for now, that's me and that's CL, and we'll see you later.
Breaking down all the biggest games in our area. This is Sports Talk with Kendrick and Dusty on Wave Now. Delivered by Berno's Pizza. Yeah, it's that good.